we have the total ability to heal ourselves naturally. We don't need drugs. We don't need them. In fact, they do more damage to our bodies than we realize.
Hello and welcome to the Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins podcast. We share people who've already healed themselves, along with health and wellness tips from myself. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Heal Yourself with me, Sarah Dawkins. Today, I'm joined by Adrienne Scharli, who was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis back in 2015. What began as a dark and confusing time quickly transformed into a powerful healing journey when she discovered that changing her diet dramatically reduced her symptoms. Over time, Adrienne learned that true healing goes beyond food, and it's now her mission to share the message that MS can be healed naturally at any stage with the right education, desire, and action. So welcome, Adrienne.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This would be great.
It will. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
So, Adrienne, can I take you back to the moment of your diagnosis? What was going through your mind when you were finally diagnosed?
Shock. It was mainly shock. And then as I looked at my MRI results, sadness. I was in disbelief. Like, this is not my life's plan. I'm healthy. I eat right. I exercise. That was going through my mind. I'm like, why is this happening to me?
What was the first symptoms that led you to the doctor thinking that there was something not quite right?
Well, and I'm not sure if I told you this, Sarah, but it really started back when I was 28 years old. And I had woken up, I was working at a stressful job. I didn't have a lot of friends. I just moved to Colorado from California. Anyway, I had a roommate and I woke up and I was numb from the chest down and my hands were numb. So then, I called my mom and my mom said, well, she was a prior nurse. She said, go to see a neurologist. And I did that. And the doctor gave me a bunch of physical tests in the office, had me walk a straight line, had me put my arms out and touch my nose, all these kind of physical tests. And then, he sat me down and I said, well, what do you think is going on with me? And he said, well, if I can bet on it, you probably have MS. And that's without being tested. Yeah.
Wow.
So,
and no indication prior that it was going to be such a whopping diagnosis.
No. And I actually didn't get diagnosed until 17 years later. Anyway, long story short, I went home, called my mom and told my mom, the doctor thinks I have MS, and she goes, okay, well, honey, don't say any, don't get fully diagnosed yet because, so I was born in 1970, I'm 55 years old. Back then, anybody who's that old probably remembers that our medical insurance companies back then were different. So you're kind of blackballed when you were diagnosed with something as serious as MS. And then your insurance rates went up and then you couldn't change insurance companies. So she was trying to protect me. She said, honey, we don't know for sure yet. Let's wait it out, live your best life, be positive, and we'll see what happens. So that's what I did. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to try to be happy. Went back to work, and magically it did dissipate after about 30 days. So then life went on, nothing happened until 17 years later.
Wow, gosh, that's a heck of a break.
Yeah, thank God, right?
Yes, absolutely. And when it came back, what were the symptoms that led you to believe that it might be the MS reoccurring?
Well, I didn't think that at all. But kind of what happened again was 3 days after my 45th birthday, in between there, I got married, had a family, had a happy life, enjoyed my career. So anyway, I woke up 3 days after my 45th birthday and I had a blind spot in my left eye. And I didn't know what it was. I'm like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then I thought, okay, this will go away, and it never did. And so I told my husband about it. And then my husband's like, well, go see an eye doctor, see if you can figure it out. So that's what I did. And then that eye doctor led me to another eye doctor, and then my general physician, and then to a neurologist. And then finally, this neurologist said, well, let's rule some things out and get you a blood test and an MRI.
And was that when you finally found out what was going on?
Yeah. So 3 days later, I went back in, got my results. And I remember the only thing I remember about my blood test results is that my vitamin D was severely low. And I didn't know about really vitamin D back then, and then she showed me my MRI results, and I had lesions all over my brain. And I was devastated, right? I mean, I was beside myself. I couldn't believe it. And then I kind of felt like cattle too, meaning like she handed me, so after she told me I had it, then she handed me like 3 brochures on drugs. One was on diet, but it was very, very minimal. And she goes, well, here you go. I'm going to send you out, and be sure you tell the girl at the front desk that we need to make another appointment so we can get you started on the drug treatment. So it was just very like so hard. I just wanted to cry. I mean, in fact, I think I did cry in the office. Like, I mean, I was, I don't know if I shed tears, but my eyes swelled up with tears. I mean, I didn't know what to think. I'm like, what is happening? Is this really real? And then I went home and told my husband about it.
So cold, so dispassionate.
It was. And
Yeah.
so what happened after that is, I went back and she goes, well, I want to get you on a 3-day steroid drip. And so I did that. And she goes, the reason I'm doing this is I want to see if I can, the steroid will reduce the inflammation behind your left eye so that you get your vision back. So that was the purpose. So I did that. And then after 3 days, I did that treatment. This migraine headache started coming on, and I don't get headaches. Like I didn't know what this was. At first, I thought it was like the sinus infection. I don't know what happened or what was happening. So I was really in bed for 30 days. And then all these other MS symptoms started coming out. So my numbness in my legs and my hands came back, not my chest, but hands and legs, from the thighs down. And then I had severe fatigue. I just wanted to sleep all day long. Here I was a realtor. I couldn't do anything. I had a washcloth over my head. I was in bed. I couldn't do anything. My husband had to pick up the slack for me. Thank God he was a realtor as well. He had to take care of my clients for me. And then I had brain fog. He would come in and check on me, and I couldn't think of the right words to say. You lose your thought patterns, and it was awful. And so brain fog, fatigue, numbness, and then I had Hermite sign. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's when you tilt your head forward so your chin touches your chest, and you feel this kind of like a buzzing or an electric shock throughout your body. And I had that too. So yeah, it was miserable.
It sounds awful.
Yeah.
And did you follow on with the pharmaceuticals? Because in your bio, you mentioned that you used food.
Yeah. So when I went to go see her again, my insurance company at the time did not allow MS drugs. So, which were, MS drugs are expensive. They're anywhere from $55,000 a year to over $100,000 a year. Is that insane or what? That's just mind blowing to me. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? This was my frame of mind back then. I'm like, because I think we've been conditioned to follow the doctor's orders because they're the know-all, right? And they really aren't. They really aren't. So I learned this later. But what happened was, while I was in bed with that migraine headache, my husband said, well, honey, we got to tell the kids. I didn't want to. Like, I just wanted to process this. I'm like, I need to figure out what's going on here. And so this was like in summer. He met him out on the patio. We were empty nesters by then, so adult children. And he told them, that I had MS. And my oldest son's girlfriend at the time, she had just graduated from Colorado State University, where we live, and she got her dietetics degree. And so later she said, Todd, I learned that Adrienne can manage her MS with diet. And so when Todd told me that, my husband, I thought, that's interesting. I'm going to research that. So I did. And guess what I came up with? I found Dr. Terry Wahls' TED Talk, and she does a 20-minute TED Talk, and she basically tells her story. So real quick, her story was, she was working as a doctor, still does, although how she works is different now, of course. But she ended up in a wheelchair. So she had the 4th-stage type of MS, and she was still doing her rounds in a wheelchair. And of course, she knows all the best doctors, right? She's taking all the best MS drugs, seeing the best doctors, and she's not getting better. She's getting worse. And so she got a tip from somebody that said, you might want to try supplements or a diet to see if that helps you with your MS. So she became a guinea pig on herself, basically, and she started taking supplements, after researching what her brain and her body needs to function correctly. She thought, okay, well, instead of taking all these supplements, which can be really expensive, she said, I'm going to try to eat the foods that have these vitamins and minerals that my body needs, right? And she started getting better. So it's after 3 months, she started getting out of bed and kind of walking around a little bit with her cane. And then 3 to 4 months later after that, she got on her bike and she biked around the block with her family. And this was like a big win for her. She talks about this. You can actually look her up. She'll tell her story. And I thought, so after I saw that TED Talk, I'm like, oh my God, how come we don't know this? We're not educated on this. This is crazy. So that day, I screamed to the grocery store. I bought all these veggies, fruits, just really quality meats, and all these foods I should eat. And I just started doing this. It wasn't very joyful at first because I didn't know how to make recipes with any of these foods, right? Before I always make sure we had a green vegetable with dinner, right? But I really needed to start eating all these nutrient-dense foods, and I did. And I was really strict with myself. I took out sugar, I took out dairy, I took out gluten. And it was about 8 to 12 weeks later. It was probably about 6 to 8 weeks where I noticed my numbness is going away. Oh my God, I have a little bit of energy back. I'm not feeling as tired. I don't need to sleep all day long. And then after about 12 weeks, everything had healed, except for the blind spot in my left eye. That took 4 to 5 months. But everything else came back. I was amazed I had this ability. So yeah, that's what happened.
And isn't it crazy that we're not even educated at any point from being little to adult, the power of our mind and body and what it can do? And I
Yeah,
think that's compounded by the fact that the doctors just throw pharmaceuticals at us for most conditions.
totally. Yes. And I've learned so much throughout my journey. This is 10 years ago. I've learned about the pharmaceutical companies, right? I mean, they don't make money if we're not sick. So they teach the doctors to prescribe the drugs because they make money that way. They don't care about us. They just care about, they're greedy, like I learned about this. Like I've done so much research on this, and it's just, it saddens me. It breaks my heart that our general medical system works this way. And so I just want to be a voice telling people, I want to just get it out as much as I can, that we have the total ability to heal ourselves naturally. We don't need drugs. We don't need them. In fact, they do more damage to our bodies than we realize. So, yeah, so that's my mission.
And I love it. It's so similar to mine, just to get out into the wider world, that our bodies can heal themselves. You've healed MS. I've healed a whole lot of different other health problems. And did you only work with food and nutrition after seeing Dr. Terry Wahls, or did you do anything else?
So the other thing that I learned about was I had some past trauma I had to heal. I learned this later. And so, I have a professional friend, and she said, Adrienne, you had a difficult childhood, because I've told her about my childhood, right? And she says, you need to heal that. You probably have to forgive your mom because, it wasn't physical abuse, it was mental abuse when I was growing up. And so I had to forgive her, and unfortunately, my mother was a narcissist. And so I hate to say this, and it's okay if people need to do this, but I had to break off all communications with my mother. It just got to a point where, I was tired of the abuse, like even into my adulthood. And this was only like 6 years ago, where I finally said, I just had the last straw, like I can't do this anymore. You keep, mentally hurting me. So, anyway, but I've forgiven her in my heart. I still love her. She's done a lot of wonderful things for me. So I had to forgive her. Forgiveness is a big thing, and there's a lot of people that have had trauma, and I didn't realize I had this trauma until later, until I thought about it more deeply. And then I realized, okay, oh, I need to work on this. So I want to put that out to your audience too. There's a lot of people that probably don't realize they have any trauma trapped in their bodies, because our bodies hold on to that. And that can cause disease too. So that's what I've learned. I've done some research on this too. And then our mind is so powerful. The other thing is what I did. So Joe Dispenza, you probably know of, and a lot of people in your audience probably know who he is. And I knew about him before I was diagnosed with MS, but that was part of my healing too. So, when I would start my day, when I would actually wake up, I would lay there and I would just visualize my body getting better, right? So I started from my head down, or the other way around, and just visualizing my numbness going away, my brain fog dissipating, my numbness, vanishing. So I really feel like that helped too. I think I did 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes before I went to bed. I don't even think my husband knew I did this. I just did it in my own mind. And I really think that helped me. And belief, you have to believe you can get well. If you don't believe it, it's not going to happen, right? So that's a big part of it too.
Absolutely. And beliefs are really, I would say, over 50% of the healing. If you can believe that your body can heal, you are really over halfway there. It's just
Yes.
the last bits to do, isn't it? And that belief within you was so prominent because you'd seen Dr. Terry Wahls do it
Yeah,
and thinking, well, if she can do it, so can I.
yeah,
What? There's no difference. Um,
absolutely.
and that really is the crux of my podcast, to say, look, here, these people have healed these diseases. Look, they're real people, and they've done it. And at the end of the day, it's there's challenges to overcome. Absolutely, the emotional work can be really challenging because it can bring up things that we've buried and repressed so deeply we don't even remember.
Yeah,
But when we can bring that up, accept what's happened, and come to a place of either forgiveness or being able to look at it without the negative associated emotions, that in itself helps us to let go. And I'm a big believer in that, allowing and letting go to help us on our own healing journeys.
yeah, yeah. And I also learned about stress. Like stress can cause disease too. We have to learn how to mitigate that. I'd say a lot. I mean, we all deal with stress, right? But it's how you deal with it is, so important. You need to figure out how to, self-care, right? You need to come home from your stressful job maybe and figure out how to, maybe it's meditation, maybe it's going for a walk after work, maybe it's playing with your kids, maybe it's reading a book. It's finding joy in the little things too, right? So the more joy and self-care that you can give yourself daily, the better off that you're going to be. And that's healing as well.
It is. And I think healing comes back to finding our joy inside, understanding who we are at our core, and being more of that rather than fitting in this hole that society says we have to fit in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Adrienne, can I ask, what have you been back to your doctor since you've healed?
No way. No, I kind of I don't like doctors that much. Meaning, okay, no, sorry, I'm gonna rephrase that. I think for the most part, doctors, have good intentions. I think a lot of them don't know that they've been trained. I mean, they know they've been trained to prescribe drugs, but I think most of them don't know that the average person can heal naturally. So I really, I look to holistic doctors, Eastern doctors, nutritional medical practitioners, right? These are the doctors that are more holistic. These are the ones that, and some were in the medical system, the regular Western medical system, and they changed over because they were getting frustrated with our regular medical system. So those are the doctors I really like, because those are the ones that really know what's going on and how the body can heal itself with the right, foods and environment that you give it.
Totally. And that's where my first port of call is, after I've consulted myself.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. And if you were to give somebody who's just got a diagnosis or even struggling way down the line with MS, and stuck in that medical model, what's one tip you could give them that they could then help themselves?
I want people to believe that they can get well. They don't need that drug. They need to educate themselves on the nutrition that they need, because that's the number one. Food is number one. That will heal you first. So get rid of the toxins, figure out what vitamins and minerals you need, start eating those foods. And then, body movement is really important too, right? I always did that. So I never had to really think much about that. I always moved my body. But yeah, just food is the number one. If you want to heal the quickest, learn about diet and what the body needs. So that's my tip.
Love it. Thank you. And I believe you have a book that you've written.
Yeah, I've got a couple.
Oh, fabulous.
The first one that I wrote is a cookbook. So it's called Nourish Your Way to Health. And the reason I wrote it is because, even though I bought Terry Wahls' protocol, Wahls protocol, she's got some recipes in the back. And then, of course, I like pictures with recipes, right? And I tried some of her recipes and they weren't that delicious to me. Like, I'm like, okay, there's got to be a better way. I know I can make kale taste good, or spinach taste good. So I just developed all these recipes, and I thought I want to share with people that healthy foods can be really delicious and they can be really easy to make. So I came up with that first, and I had a book launching party at my real estate office, and that was exciting because everybody kind of knew my story, and a lot of people bought books there. It's on Amazon. But then after that, I thought, I want to interview other people who have also healed themselves with MS. And I want to get their stories, because if people read this book, they might see themselves in some of these stories and know that they can heal themselves too. So this book is also on Amazon. It's called The Path to Reverse Multiple Sclerosis Naturally. And the cover looks different, but the title is the same. And that's on Amazon too. So I had a lot of fun with that one, especially finding people and interviewing them on their journey, because everybody's healing journey is so different. And everybody with MS have different symptoms. There's so many different symptoms that we have, and it can be healed. I just want people to know that it can be healed. And it depends on, the kind of person you are, on how quickly you can heal, right? So I'm a kind of like all or nothing kind of girl, so I wanted to heal as soon as possible. So I'm like, and quitting sugar was hard. I'm not going to say it was easy, but, as soon as you can figure out and get on board with the food you need to eat, you can heal pretty darn quickly. And it also depends like what stage you're in, right? If you're in a wheelchair, it's going to take your body longer to heal, but you've got to do the work too. You've got to, right, do your work on your muscles. You got to work on your body, like walking, and that takes some time. So, but be kind to yourself, but know it's going to work, and don't give up.
I love that. Yes, stay dedicated, because at the end of the day, you're going to benefit from everything you're doing.
Yes. And then we all have bad days, right? I mean, we might have, a day where we're not eating, exactly healthy. And we all know that, when we go to birthday parties or, graduation parties, whatever, there's never healthy food there ever. So, my tip there is, don't beat yourself up, but try to eat healthy food and fill yourself up before you go to those parties. So, yeah, that's my tip.
Thank you. And where can people find you?
So I've got a website. It's called nourishyourwaytohealth.com. Nourishyourway.com. And I am a health coach. I help people with MS reverse their symptoms. The last gal I helped reversed 80% of her symptoms. So I've got a 12-week program that it works. It works. And it gives me pleasure, and it really helps the people that go through my program. So it's really exciting.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing all your healing, all your tips to get you back to wellness for healing MS.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for having me, Sarah.
Thank you for listening. Please share this podcast with anyone who you think will benefit. And can you leave me a review wherever you've listened to it to help me reach more people? Thank you.